Fantastic. So I'm Paul Hilder. I'm the Executive Director of Here Now. We're about to have an event here at the Beyond Davos hub called the Climate Gamechangers. It's all about mobilizing companies and consumers in 2015 around the issues of climate and clean energy, sustainable living. We've got Richard Branson speaking. We've got IKEA and Unilever and other major companies participating. President Mary Robinson, who's the UN Special Envoy on climate change. And we're going to discuss how billions of consumers could really be game changers on the issue of climate in 2050.
If we could find a way of getting companies who are already bold on climate to mobilize their consumers in unprecedented numbers in concert with the civil society efforts, the behind closed doors negotiating efforts, and all the work that businesses are doing internally on their supply chains, we might actually be able to generate a meaningful moment this year that could be a tipping point on climate, particularly around Paris. What we found is the most effective way to spread these ideas is if they feel and are ownerless. There may be some people in the background developing a strategy, but actually they're structured so that everybody can take a frame or an idea and remix it, adapt it, run with it in a very creative way that has that potential to be an ownerless meme. And what we did in starting Here Now, we started to experiment with how you might do this. And around the climate march last year, we wanted to create an ownerless meme that would engage people who might not be marching on the streets themselves, who weren't already committed greenies, like millennials, like faith leaders. So we developed something called Walk the Walk. And I'm going to show you this little 1-minute video to describe what we did.
Join me and walk the walk.
I walk the walk because I believe in 100% renewable energy for 100% of the people.
Why don't we, the people, join the 2000 Worldwide Climate Change March? Walk the walk!
Be sure we not only talk the talk, but also walk the walk.
Actually working by doing something about climate change.
Now is the time to walk the talk.
Ask your leaders to walk the walk on climate change. But let's all walk the walk every day.
Solar energy every day. That's how we walk the walk. How do you walk?
I walk the walk because they're ready for action on climate.
So this campaign just came together in a matter of a couple of weeks, and it actually ended up reaching 90 million people. And again, because no one owned it, people just started adopting it. So President Obama used it as the frame for his call to action on climate and sent it to 40 million people. Different brands like IKEA picked it up. It just became this Boulder that nobody owned, but was a frame and an action that had a playfulness to it that people got really excited about.
I think it's really important, as has been said, that we recognise that this is a moment in time. It really is. And 2015 is the year of this moment in time. And we have to get decisions taken this year that will ensure a safe world for the future, that will ensure good development, sustainable development in the future, that will keep us below the 2 degrees Celsius of warming that governments have acknowledged. Some scientists think actually we should stay well below that. Some small island states say, please stay down 1.5 degrees. So it's a moment for transformative change. And transformative change is not business as usual with a bit of green attached. And if we're going to get transformative change, business has to lead on it, because you're the change makers. I think mobilizing the clients and consumers of large companies would be a huge step in creating a new mindset, a new narrative. We need to get to this new climate economy as fast as possible. I would ask all the business leaders here to put this aspect of climate, the transformative need, that are on their talking points with other business leaders, but also with political leaders. Political leaders need to hear this strongly in September, but particularly in Paris in December. We need a real sense the world is ready, we want it. There is a long-term goal, as it's called, for zero carbon by 2050 in the text. It's weak. Cristiano Figueres at every meeting I've been at pleads, let's make it stronger. Let's tell governments there's nothing frightening about this, and business is on your side, and business wants it, and the consumers of business want it. So I'm really excited about the possibility. We need the faith leaders, and the Pope is giving very good leadership on that. We need everybody. We need women, we need youth, we need to just take this year as the transformative year of change and take our responsibility for future generations. We can't let them down.
And I think what I would urge business leaders to do in this room is to work with these organisations, come up with imaginative ways of getting the grassroots message across to through all our consumers. I mean, between us all in this room, we've got millions and millions and millions of consumers. Do it in a fun way, which makes people smile, but do it in a way that makes sure that next year is a success. What I think we want to try to do is get every single business leader that we know to sign a pledge, so that governments realise that they're not going up against the business world and the business community when they also hopefully sign a pledge in a year's time to say carbon neutral by 2050, and that's something we're going to work towards.
We should have something that was as great as Walk the Walk, where it was Desmond Tutu and Russell Brand and IKEA and it's about everybody. It's a fantastic opportunity. And I think the one thing we have to decide this year is, if we don't do our utmost, if we don't do something where we have to make the difficult phone calls, then in 20 years' time, when our grandchildren say, "What did you do?" we won't be able to say we did everything we could and it was really cool. There's a fantastic opportunity to be on the right side of history.
I think it's also very important, and I spent a good part of my career working in the government side. I was part of the U.S. negotiating team in Kyoto, and the role of companies and the role of iconic brands to make a difference in society is tremendous. And so when household names like Google, etc., Coca-Cola, come forward with propositions around climate, around taking action, it changes the political landscape in a way that other kinds of advocacy campaigns may not. It fills a void. Senator Whitehouse in the U.S. Senate and Nancy Pelosi very focused on engaging businesses, because frankly the stalemate in Washington is so intense. They're looking for ways to open up the political space, and finding companies that are embracing this and legitimizing the fact that this is a critical issue that we need to be working on helps provide some opening politically for people to do the right thing. And I think we, in the business community, can play a stronger role. I think there's a big gap, unfortunately, still between what many of us in business talk about in our annual reports on climate change and what we do with lobbying and what we do with our connection with consumers. And we've got to change that to the urgency that Steve and others have just pointed to. That at the end of the day, consumers, otherwise known as citizens, have a direct and very intimate relationship with the companies that are in the consumer goods space. People bring our products into their homes. They eat and drink products that we make. They wear products that they use products in the home, etc. And that intimate relationship with literally billions of consumers. Unilever has over 2 billion people a day use one of our products. Amazing connectivity. And how do we begin to leverage that relationship that we have in a way that is going to help shift that mindset and shift in the long term behavior change as well?
But we're one of the largest commissioners of market research in the world. And I've seen a really distinct change, and we're really at the edge of something. And I believe 2015 can get us where we want to be. And the shift is from people looking at my world, and they were very focused in my world. If you went to favelas of Brazil, it was about my home, my family, my next door neighbour. If you asked them about pollution, it was pollution from the cement dust from the house next door, very much my world. And we saw about 5 years people starting to talk about our world. And that's the communities, the schools, the local supermarkets, etc. But there's a real shift that's happened over the last couple of years to people being aware about the world and being genuinely interested at scale. So the idea that people out there aren't interested is absolutely wrong. What we haven't managed to do is integrate it into our stories well enough on enough brands. And I don't know whether it's the climate-related disasters that you see on the television, or whether it's actually the internet itself joining people together, but people are really interested. And the challenge for all of us is to integrate these messages in the right way into our brands, and actually make it part of the purpose of the brand, the social mission, an environmental mission, etc. And it's interesting, if I look at our suite of brands, the ones that are growing the fastest, the ones that are growing double-digit, are the ones that have a solid purpose, a social or environmental purpose at the core. So then when you're spending the money on this message, it's not wasting money, it's building the social media way really exciting brands.
As a phrasing plug, as long as it's understood,
which don't need to cost much. You don't have to.
We talked about the opportunity for engaging citizens as shareholders. There was quite a lot of enthusiasm for the idea of these kind of ownerless movements and focused moments. One story shared from the UK of a campaign which actually we're working with a little bit as well, called For the Love Of, which is going to launch around Valentine's Day, for the love of my kids, for the love of the football field which gets flooded because of climate change.
And then ultimately, we quite like the idea of using the phrasing which Tom and her colleagues and many people in this room have developed around the climate negotiations, which is this idea of we will, to get the various non-state actors, the cities, the sub-federal states, the mayors, the corporations and their supply chains, the investors, and some of these consumer movements, hopefully, that could be galvanized, to say what we will do in the context of an agreement, a parallel, supportive, but also challenging agreement of the non-state actors that you could plug into the multilateral process in Paris in 2015, which would be endorsing and validating and hopefully would bolster ambition, but is also a way of showing a new pathway to invigorate discussion on what is possible through international action to deal with climate change.
What I love about what I've heard today is there seems to be an increasing feeling that we can do something and we should do something. And where there's a will, there's a way, as always. So what are some things we've heard? I think what we've heard, there was some need to do some specific things. And there was a combination of things that could be done. And Richard Branson talked about things like removing fuel subsidies and getting to carbon emission net neutral by 2050, and those sort of commitments. We heard here about a price for carbon, etc. Because those in themselves become a signal. But I think even beyond those individual things, because no one in here is going to be able to make those things happen now, even beyond those, what we can do, though, collectively, is join up to bring the awareness and ambition and leadership to this event and thought of 2015. And I think we can only do that if we actually flip the way we're thinking about this. If you think about it, we're sitting here, many of us with a business hat and thinking about sort of environmental and social sustainability within our businesses. And we even had the conversation about how CSR actually in some ways is a bad thing, because it means that you do something bad over there and you negate it with your CSR over here. And it should be across the whole business. And if you think about it, it's quite an absurd thought. We should really flip it the other way around. It's not sort of environmental and social sustainability inside business. It's society that's the big thing, and businesses inside society. And I think once we flip that around, then we start the thought about, you can't have a healthy business in an unhealthy society. It then, I think, starts making think, well, how do we then mobilize the people across the world to engage in that thought? So we heard of things about saying, let's make it positive. I think it's true, actually, by the way, for those of you who work on brands and marketing, it's very hard to get people to hold themselves to negative messages, because ultimately we all want to go and eat chocolate and drink beer. That's a very natural thing that we want to do. And if you try and hold yourself against negative messages, it's difficult. So I think we need to find a positive way to bring people to a brighter future. And there's never been a better time to make a brighter future than the moment we have right now. So exciting, positive. The we will phrase came up as well as a different idea. So something around action, but more importantly, how do we get behind making this happen? And so what are the things that you can take back into your businesses, those bold statements, the 100% rather than 90% or whatever, that can engage your businesses one by one for us to build 2015 into a fabulous year?